What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. One-tricking, or really just maining a specific champion in League of Legends is a great way to climb the ladder. You know, playing just one or having a small champion pool can be really key to developing your mechanics and decision making as a player, especially for those who are maybe not that experienced or still have a lot of room to grow. And it can be quite difficult to select which champion you might want to play because champions are getting buffed and nerfed and all sorts of stuff are happening all the time. So today we're taking a look at 8 champions that are great options to one-trick or main in League of Legends. And we'll have at least one champion for each role throughout the video, so hopefully there's something for everyone. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like on it or let us know in the comment section below, and be sure to subscribe. And this video is going to be sponsored and edited by ProGuides.com. ProGuides is a guide website with the intention to helping you become the best player that you can be. They recently released a new and fun way to learn League of Legends. You can choose a course to study and earn points for answering questions with personalized data tracking. And you can also talk to a challenger player to get personalized help or ask questions 24/7 at any time using the website. Try it for free at the link in the description, and let's jump right into the video. Now our first champion on today's list is a mid laner that is definitely a very reliable option, and it's Ahri. Ahri makes a great one-trick champion because she really kind of just has a little bit of everything. She's really versatile. She's got the wave clear, mobility, range damage, crowd control, great roaming potential. Her charm and ultimate also make her a very forgiving champion to play if you make any mistakes, but at the same time she also provides a ton of upside in any game. She can afford to build a ton of different things, from you can play like a control mage, or especially if you're ahead you can play like an assassin, depending on the situation or what your game maybe desires. She's got a little bit of a skill floor with high mana costs and can sometimes be weak in the laning phase and requires a little bit of positional knowledge for roaming and fighting, but once you kind of get the gist of it, she becomes really powerful, and her playstyle as a whole is actually quite forgiving too. And for the most part, she's pretty much been relevant in, I have to say, just about every meta in League of Legends throughout time, especially for solo queue at least. And Ahri's the kind of champion where if you can get a lead, you know, if you can get ahead, you're pretty much set up to dominate the rest of the game, and if you don't, you can still roam and you have tons of options and ways to catch up, which is where Ahri can truly shine. She can dash in, pick off opponents before they even realize anything's happening, and she's really just pretty fluid and a really well-designed champion that's pretty fun to play too. Up next, we have Pantheon. Now, some champions take a lot of mechanical skill to pull off well, some champions maybe require some intense game sense, but with Pantheon, you don't really need much of any of that. You know, he's very simple and he's very effective, especially in the early game. He's a great option for anyone who wants to play a lane-dominant champion. His laning phase, you're kind of just gonna be forcing your opponent out all the time, having them sit at their tower, and then all of a sudden you're dropping down in the mid lane and murdering the enemy carries. Now, Pantheon's ultimate allows him to transition from that early game into a really powerful snowball, allowing him to be really useful in carrying the mid game as well. You kind of need some map awareness to know how to make the most of it, otherwise he can kind of fall off hard if you're not making plays around the map, but he's definitely a great option for someone who wants to play a champion that's on the kind of more simple mechanic side, but is still something that's really powerful. And his W can lead to some great wombo combos or pick potential, and he actually has some pretty okay area of effect damage with his ultimate and his E in team fights. Another really strong option to one-trick or main, especially if you're a top laner, is Fiora. Fiora's riposte ability is probably one of the best defensive tools in the entire game, gives you a ton of outplay potential, you know? It's one of the very few abilities in the game that can counter damage and crowd control effects. The ability has a kind of a short active window though, so it results in something that has a very high skill cap. The skill and game sense needed to play Fiora at a really high level is pretty intense, so I have to say it's the kind of champion that is best for players who want to like play one character only and then practice her really hard and get really intensely good at them. But the thing is that once you can actually get really good at Fiora, she doesn't have many other downsides, and her assassination abilities aren't limited to squishy targets either, as her passive and ultimate give her great max percent HP damage, so it's a great counter to tanks too, once you get good at playing her at least. And with this, she can also provide some decent utility in team fights with her ultimate heal, which doesn't even require the target's death to proc sometimes. Overall, Fiora is, I have to say, a very high skill cap champion, but she's a pretty good pick in almost every situation, assuming you have the experience to back it up, and she stays very strong throughout pretty much every stage of the game. She's really one of the most perfect champions you could possibly one-trick. Now next up we've got our choice for AD carry, which is actually Draven. Now Draven's always been kind of an interesting pick to me because he always seems to somewhat fly under the radar. You know, he's not really played in competitive, he doesn't really get banned all that much, people don't really consider him to be that much of a threat, but that doesn't mean he's a bad champion. In fact, he's far from it. Draven is probably one of the snowballiest champions in the entire game, which is an amazing trait to have if you're playing them in solo queue, and he's always been a really strong champion that just carries really hard in solo queue games. You know, Draven's passive is kind of just a win more condition, just makes you snowball so hard, and because of the raw damage that his kit brings, it allows him to be really strong against killing tanks, which is something that a lot of AD carry champions can really struggle with when it comes to solo queue games. He can be a little bit more intense mechanically than other AD carries. He's definitely a pretty high skill cap champion, but a lot of the times when you're one-tricking a champion, the fact that they have a high skill cap is actually a good thing because it makes it a lot more fun to play. You know, you can play 100 games on that champion and you'll still be learning new things at them. And of course, it makes them have a ton of outplay potential and they're really good at carrying games. And if you're not up for Draven, you could probably just play Twitch, which is our AD carry pick that we took a look at in our last video of this series. Now we've got another pick for the mid lane actually, and that is Twisted Fate. Probably my personal favorite champion on our list today, or at least the one that I've played the most. He's a really well-rounded mid laner, he's got crowd control, great wave clear, and really just excellent roaming potential. You know, playing Twisted Fate, the thing about him is he plays the game so differently to most mid lane champions. You know, he doesn't really even require you to outplay or beat your opponent or really just even play against them throughout the entire game. He kind of just excels at dominating the rest of the map, getting the ball rolling for carrying your team, pushing lanes, just ganking everywhere. Twisted Fate is just such a good champion for roaming, and he's the kind of character that can really allow you to win every single lane on your team if you're skilled enough with him. On top of having high wave clear with his Q and his red cards, once you get the Lich Bane as well, a lot of the time it allows him to do big damage, especially to towers. And like Pantheon, you know, his ultimate is just really awesome at creating pressure on the enemy team, and the thing is that it creates such a big threat that when you're playing against a Twisted Fate, if you're in the bottom lane or the top lane or something like that, you always are kind of thinking about it like, oh, does Twisted Fate have his ultimate? Like, you don't even have to do anything and you're already creating a ton of pressure. And it's just such an awesome tool and makes him one of the best solo queue champions, really. His biggest weakness though is definitely the fact that he doesn't have any escapes and he's really vulnerable to early ganks. So you just kind of want to be careful until you hit level 6. You know, don't really try to play against the opponent. Don't really try to play against the opponent's jungler, especially in the early game, and just kind of sit back and wave clear until you hit level 6, or maybe you see an opportunity for a roam. And he's also been in a pretty neutral spot for the longest time, and he's not really going to get nerfed anytime soon, which I gotta say says a lot about the potential of the champion. Now we're moving from the mid lane into our jungle pick, which is Evelynn. So anything with invisibility is going to be a great character for solo queue. So it's no surprise that a champion with permanent invisibility, for most of the game at least, makes our list. You know, once she hits level 6, Evelynn becomes a massive pressure without really even needing to do all that much, because it kind of goes back to a similar effect that Twisted Fate has. Just because you have this stealth or this potential to gank someone at any time, you know, the mere thought of Evelynn appearing in your lane for a gank is enough to just get people to not play as aggressive as they otherwise would. And when she does spring into action though, she's got great crowd control, huge burst, tons of damage. She can easily just appear out of stealth, one-shot someone, and escape really easily with her ultimate, which gives her an execute, invulnerability, and escape all in one. It's really just one of the craziest abilities in the game. Now she kind of needs to hit level 6 before she can get to work though, as her early ganks can be weak, and she can also lose somewhat hard to 1v1 jungle fights. But once she hits level 6, she's just snowballing out of control and can just 1v1 everyone on the map. And she's definitely a great option for any jungle players wanting to dominate in solo queue. And in the bottom lane on support, we have Rakan, who's probably the best support to one trick or main right now. You know, his kit is absolutely loaded with utility. He's really versatile with his runes, his build path, his play style, which means that he can be played in a lot of different metas and team compositions. He's got a really good hard engage ability that's fairly easy to pull off, and hard engage supports are definitely the kind of thing you want to bring to the table when you're trying to carry a solo queue game. It's definitely important to master his positioning and your timing for engages, and he might not be the tankiest champion, but he can kind of go in and out and weave and do all these sort of tricky plays that can really have a big effect. And Rakan will likely always be a relevant pick, so he's definitely a great champion that you'd want to one trick if you enjoy playing the support role, or maybe if you're looking for a new champion to pick up. But that's just about going to be it for today's video. Let me know what you thought about this list, or if you perhaps want to add more champions. You know, there's a ton of champions in the game that are great options to one trick or main, but really at the end of the day, you should probably just play what's the most fun for you. Anyway, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.